It's not Ha-Seong Kim or bust at shortstop. There's a lot more options than you think.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. And also, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X, Locked On Braves on Instagram, and pretty much anywhere you get on social media these days. If you're watching on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below so others can find us. Help out the algorithms. Appreciate so many of you who just jump in the comment section to do that. It does mean a lot and helps us out a lot whenever you do that. If you're listening on the audio side, you can help out as well. Just leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Big shout out to all my everydayers out there. Got some exciting news coming for you here pretty soon on that. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the shortstop position again. I know it feels like it's the 50th time we've done it this offseason, but it's necessary, and that's in my Twitter handle. So we're going to talk about it as often as I want to. But it is a big deal this offseason for the Atlanta Braves to find that right fit at shortstop. And I feel like we've gotten in this mentality that it's Ha-Seong Kim or bust. But as I break things down, there's a lot more options and a lot more ways the Braves could go with the shortstop position this offseason. So we'll get into all of that on today's episode, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. It's very important that the Braves find a shortstop this offseason. Alex Anthopoulos has stated it's priority number one for them this offseason. It is the biggest hole on this team. It has been a black hole on this team pretty much ever since Dansby Swanson left. The second half of 2023, after that torrid start from Orlando Arcia wore off, he was still fine in the second half, but past 2 years especially, it has been a huge black hole for this Atlanta Braves team. Couple of comments here from Alex Anthopoulos about the shortstop position before I get into it here, but this coming from Alex Anthopoulos via David O'Brien in his article on The Athletic said, you can work around some things. You just have to decide what's the bar you need to clear. There's plenty of examples. Look at World Series winners over the years. I don't think everyone was a gold glove caliber defender at each position. So what AA is hinting at here is the fact that you don't have to have the best player at every position, that you can certainly win, being weaker at some positions, which is true. But we've also said that about the shortstop position the last 2 years. The last 2 years, I've said it myself. You can live with Orlando Arcia in the 9 spot playing good defense at shortstop if everybody else is doing their job. You can live with Nick Allen in the 9 spot playing gold glove defense if everybody else in the lineup is doing their job. But here's the problem the last 2 years. Nobody else has done their job. The regulars who you're counting on have either underperformed, been hurt, or both. And now you go into a third season. Again, that's happened 2 years in a row. You go into 2026 now. You can't count on that. You can't count on those guys just being who we know they can be and what they're capable of and say, we can punt the shortstop position. You can't do that 3 years in a row. I understood it, in 2024. I even understood it a little bit in 2025, although it was a little bit harder to swallow just because of what you saw in 2024. But you felt like with everybody back healthy, at least to begin the season, that the offense would be okay as long as either Arcia or Nick Allen just played good defense at shortstop and hit ninth for you. But when that doesn't happen, all of a sudden, that black hole in the bottom of your lineup offensively really starts to hurt you. So I get what AA is saying. I just finished the 1995 documentary on YouTube, which is great. By the way, enjoyed that. And Rafael Belliard's playing shortstop for you. I mean, an obvious black hole offensively in your lineup, but a good defender. And they also had 3 future Hall of Famers in the rotation, and it was a team that was built on pitching and defense. So you can win World Series like that. I certainly understand that sentiment, but I don't think you can go into a third straight year now and say, we're just going to count on everybody else doing what they're supposed to do and just be fine with Nick Allen as a shortstop position. You can't do that any longer. And I think AA knows that too. Despite that comment, I think he knows that as well, because he also said earlier this week they need to add a lot of relievers, but for now they are prioritizing shortstop and starting pitcher. Kind of why they declined the options on Kenley and Pierce Johnson to save that money to be able to spend it on a shortstop and starting pitcher. I think they need to elevate a big bat into that discussion, unless that comes via shortstop. But it sounds like they're prioritizing the shortstop position. And in AA's first quote that I read, he said, you have to decide what's the bar you need to clear at that position. There's plenty of things you can work around. There's positions. You don't have to be great at every position, but what bar do you have to clear at each position so that it's not just a complete negative? Well, here's the bar that you have to clear. I'm going to tell you, I already had this written out before I read that quote. The bar is that for the last 3 years combined, the Braves have gotten 2.7 F4 out of their shortstops and a combined 74 WRC plus. That's combined. That WAR is over 3 seasons. They've gotten under 3 WAR at the shortstop position in the last 3 seasons. I'm going to say it again, combined. That's not just a single season. That's what they've gotten combined over the last 3 years, pretty much since Dansby Swanson left. And that's with a good 2023 from Orlando Arcia and a 74 WRC plus, which is just putrid. Just to lay out that stat again, 100 is league average. So that's at the minimum where you want to be. And it's been 74. So it's been bad. Now it has been good defensively, been great defensively at times. Orlando Arcia in 2023 was great defensively, kind of took a step back in 24. Nick Allen was Gold Glove worthy defensively in 2025. So they've been good there defensively, but it has been really bad on the offensive side. So first, I want to lay out the internal options. What choices do the Braves have now? If they don't do anything this offseason, this is what it looks like. You're going back out there with Nick Allen, who's been the worst qualified hitter in baseball since he came into the league. Great defensively, I get it, but the worst qualified hitter in baseball since he joined the league. Vidal Brujan, not an everyday player. Nice utility bench guy, not an everyday player. Jim Jarvis, who they just traded for, he's in the Arizona Fall League. I think he's a utility player. I honestly don't think he belongs at shortstop, just what I saw of him in college. Maybe he's grown some since then. I don't think it's a legitimate option. John Hill finished the year at AA. I've been watching some of his games this offseason already, and I do like what I see from him, but he's not near ready, certainly not for 2026. Alex Lodi's, Cody Miller, Tate Southasine, 3 guys they just drafted last year, none of them particularly close. I don't know that Cody Miller is a shortstop long-term. Lodi's didn't have a good introduction into professional ball, too many strikeouts. Southasine, I think, eventually moves to center field. And then Jose Perdomo, who has been injured, and when he has played, hasn't looked like the top international prospect that the Braves signed a few years ago. That's what you have at the shortstop position for the Braves right now, internally. Those are your options. And certainly just looking at 2026, Nick Allen, Brujan, maybe Jim Jarvis, maybe Hill in the later half of the season, if he were to really explode offensively. It's just, those aren't good options right now. But that's what you're facing internally, and that's why it is important and imperative that the Braves not really even go out and find a shortstop for this season, but for the seasons to come. And why it was also very important they got that extra draft pick to hopefully find that shortstop of the future, because I don't know that it's in that list that I just gave you. I'm still watching some more tape on John Hill. I'm hoping maybe there's something there with him. Again, I'm not a believer in Jim Jarvis. I'm not a believer in Nick Allen and Vidal Brujan. Need to see a little bit more from Alex Lodis. It wasn't great. I need to watch some more of Cody Miller to see if he can stick at shortstop. Obviously, the bat looked really good after getting drafted. Southasine, even if he is going to stay at shortstop, you're talking, at least 3-4 years before he's ready. And same for Perdomo, who's got a lot of work to do himself. So another name I didn't mention, Ambior Taveras, who I don't think they're going to lose him in the Rule 5 draft, but he's Rule 5 eligible, but still striking out too much. The glove is obviously there, but striking out way too much. The options just aren't great. So that's why it's very important that the Braves go out and find somebody this year. And if they can, find somebody for the future as well, because I just don't know that it's in the system at this moment. But let me know if you disagree in the comments section below. However, when you look at the options this offseason, we've talked a lot about Ha-Seong Kim, and it's Ha-Seong Kim or bust. I don't necessarily agree with that anymore, and I'm going to tell you why next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything up to who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. They also already have the World Series odds out there for next season, the Braves at plus 2,200. But if you are moved on or have moved on to the NBA season, they have odds out there for the NBA Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder are our big favorites out there. They have awards predictions, all of that you can see right there at FanDuel.com. Also, please make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. So we get you caught up on everything happening around Major League Baseball, talking about the Cy Young winner announcements, no surprises there. Everything else happening right now around Major League Baseball this offseason. Make sure you subscribe right here on Locked On Braves as well. We'll have one more podcast coming your way this weekend, our mailbag episode on Friday. Look for a post from Locked On_Braves on X Friday morning. Submit your question to that post to be answered on Friday afternoon's mailbag episode. And join me for that one live if you can. Getting back into our discussion today, though, taking a look at the options available at shortstop this offseason, because, again, I think we've been lulled into this feeling of Ha-Seong Kim or bust. And I get it, and I understand why when you look at the free agents out there. But looking deeper into the trade market, and trades are a lot harder to pull off, and you gotta give up some assets. I understand that. But I think there are definitely some areas you could go. But let's start with the free agent class, because it is shallow. It's Bo Bichette, projected to get 8 years, a little over $200 million for a guy that many people believe could move to second base. Look, I don't think the Braves are going to go after Bo Bichette. I have no problem, though, if they did. Look, he rates as one of the worst defensive shortstops. I get that when you look at the ratings. I've watched him play several times this past year. I thought he looked fine to good at shortstop defensively. So, and look, even if that's not ultimately where he lands, Ozzy's contract's up in a couple of years. You could live with him at shortstop with that offense for a couple of seasons and then move him over to second base. A lot to pay for a second baseman, but, the bat is legit. He's had one bad season offensively, and it's when he's dealt with a lot of injuries. Outside of that, he has been excellent offensively. So I have no problems with signing Bo Bichette to be the Braves shortstop if that's what they wanted to do. I don't think they will. You look at Bo Bichette offensively, 143 WRC plus, 120, 122, 129, 124. He had a 70 WRC plus in 2024. It's the clear outlier here. And then came back this past season, proved that the injuries were the reason for that, had a 134 WRC plus, the best of his career over a full season. So he's been great offensively. Don't really question the bat at all. It's just, where does he land defensively? And look, I think you can live with it if you're going to get that offensive production, and you could ultimately move him over to second base if you have to. I have no problem at all if they want to spend big on Bo Bichette. I don't think they will. The other free agent option is Ha-Seong Kim. Now, he's projected, according to MLB Trade Rumors, to get 2 years, $30 million, which if that is the deal, that's an easy choice. You just go do it. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. A career 99 WRC plus and at least 2.6 FWAR in 3 straight seasons from 22 to 24. I mean, that's far better than the numbers I gave you. I talked about the bar to clear earlier. You're talking about a 74 WRC plus is what the Braves have gotten from the shortstop position over the last 3 years. And so to get somebody who's been league average, again, not great offensively, and that's why if the price were to jump up on Ha-Seong Kim, I would immediately be fine backing out too, because even in his best years, he's an average offensive player, but it is still a huge upgrade over what you've been getting at the position. So again, at that price, it's a no-brainer, because that's really it. Otherwise, you're talking about guys like Willie Castro, Isaiah Verlefa, Miggy Rojas, who has basically already said he's either going to go back to the Dodgers and retire. And I would think after the way that season ended for Miggy Rojas, what a way to ride off into the sunset. So we'll see if he even comes back. But none of those guys are really everyday players, and maybe not even everyday shortstops. Shouldn't even be at the shortstop position. So you look at the free agent class, and I can understand why there is just this feeling of, oh, we've got to get Ha-Seong Kim, because that's really it. It's Bo Bichette, it's Ha-Seong Kim. Outside of that, you're talking about some utility players, not everyday players, certainly not everyday shortstops. But you go look at the trade market for the shortstop position, and I know not all these guys are going to be available, and maybe not all these guys make sense, but there are a lot of options out there that you could go to. The first one is CJ Abrams, a career 97 WRC plus and at least 1.9 F4 in each of the past 3 seasons. Again, a lot better offensive production than what you've been good at getting. However, he rates as the worst qualified defensive shortstop by a wide margin. Negative 31 fielding run value. Next worst is JP Crawford at negative 15 over the last 3 years. It's not pretty for CJ Abrams defensively. You've seen it. He's even worse against the Braves, it feels like. If you can get that figured out, though, I mean, you're talking about, 20-30, 20-40 type of guy with a lot of speed, but it's a big risk. And obviously you're trading within the division, which always makes things a little bit more awkward, but it's an option. And I think the Nationals would be willing to move him. Again, it's just within the division. What does that look like? And can you get over that defense? Do you feel confident that you can fix some things defensively for him to, and do you think the offense is good enough? Like I said, it's a career 97 WRC plus. That's still below league average, but much better than you've been getting. So it's a risky play for certain, but it's an option. It's available to you. Trevor Story, 101 WRC plus the last, and 3 F4 the last year in 157 games. So he was, again, average offensively, but a 3 WAR player. The Braves combined haven't had 3 F4 at the position over the last 3 years. He has 2 more years at $25 million each with a $5 million buyout, so he's still owed $55 million total. I would imagine the Red Sox are going to try very hard to get rid of this money. Could you do a swap if you wanted Trevor Story? And look, again, like CJ Abrams and all these players, there's risk. But remember where that bar is for the Braves at shortstop. That's what you're trying to clear. Can you clear that bar of 74 WRC plus and 2.7 F4 over the last 3 seasons? Can you clear that bar? I think Trevor Story clears that bar. It's expensive and it's risky because of his health issues. But say you take Trevor Story and you send Aaron Bummer back. And so that takes a good chunk of money out of what you'd owe him for this year. Maybe even get them to throw in a little bit more, you can work on the package, but I think there's ways that you can make that work out, because Trevor Story, I think, is an upgrade over what you've had at the shortstop position. All right, this one's a little bit off the wall, and I don't want anybody going out there, thinking that this player is just available for trade. But I look at the Orioles and I look at the infield depth that they have. Would they be willing to trade Jordan Westburg? 115 WRC plus over the last 3 years with 1.9 and 2.7 F4 in the past 2 seasons. Couple of questions here other than would the Orioles be willing to move him, a team that, can use some pitching. The Braves have some pitching depth. The other question is, can he play shortstop? Been playing third base, so obviously has the arm for the left-hand side of the infield. He has played shortstop in the past, in the minor leagues and in college. Can he play it well enough? Price, I think, would certainly be high. I think you'd have to give up one of your top pitching prospects. You can do it without giving up away one of your major league, prospect, or one of your major league arms like Waldrop or Schwellenbach. And I wouldn't do that for Jordan Westburg. But if you can do it for one of your top prospects, maybe even Cam Caminiti, I think it might be worth it to get the offensive production that you could get from a Jordan Westburg. And that's not one that I think is very likely, but I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. It's an option. Corey Seager. We've talked about Corey Seager a lot already. At least a 138 WRC plus in each of the last 3 seasons with at least 4 F WAR. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, but injury risk and a lot of money owed. But it's out there. If the Rangers are looking to cut some money, you want to go get a big upgrade at shortstop and get a big bat, Corey Seager could be that guy. Anthony Volpe. Career 85 WRC plus over 3 seasons with 1.9, 3.5, and 1 F4. Doesn't sound great, but again, it clears that bar for what the Braves have gotten from shortstop the last 3 years. A 2020 guy. I think the big question for me with Anthony Volpe is, can the defense come back, and how much of that shoulder injury really hurt him this past season, both offensively and defensively? He's already had surgery to correct that. If the Yankees were willing to move on from him, I don't necessarily know what the Yankees are needing, if that's a match, but if the Yankees are willing to kind of move on from a guy that's underperformed and hasn't lived up to the expectations of a top prospect, could you take advantage of that and get a guy who's a 2020 guy? You bat him ninth, you're going to get some speed, you're going to get a little bit of power. If that defense were to come back, which looked like gold glove level before the injuries, I think that could be a solid deal for the Atlanta Braves. Jeremy Pena with the Astros, at least a 96 WRC plus in each of the last 4 seasons with at least 2.7 FWAR. I don't think the Astros are trading him, but again, just putting it out there because it's at least been mentioned, and it's something you can at least make a call on and see what the Astros are doing. I mean, they traded Kyle Tucker last offseason. Who's to say they wouldn't also trade Jeremy Pena? Another one a little bit off the wall here, but Maikel Garcia of the Royals. 85, 71, and 121 WRC plus over the last 3 years. So certainly some ups and downs with at least 1.2 FWAR in each of those 3 seasons. He broke out in 2025. Was that for real? I know cousins with Ronald, so that would be cool. The other question is, can he play shortstop? He's been great defensively at third base. So has the arm for that side, has the quickness. I watch a lot of Royals games. So I love watching Bobby Witt. Wish we could trade for him. But if the Royals, and I think they're looking more for outfield, they're trading for pitching, which is what the Braves have. So I don't know that there's a match here. But if you could convince them to trade Maikel Garcia and you think he can play shortstop, I mean, that would be an upgrade. JP Crawford, he's had at least a 90 WRC plus in every season since 2020 and at least 1.4 FWAR over that span. So he's been very consistent offensively, not great, but not awful. So again, that's obviously an upgrade offensively. The defense has been up and down, but it's mostly been down in 3 of the last 4 years. So that is a concern. But again, you're getting a very consistent, reliable offensive bat at the shortstop position. I mentioned Taylor Walls. I mean, it's an upgrade over Nick Allen offensively, but just barely. You're talking about a 60 and 66 WRC plus the last 2 years, but is a Gold Glove defender. So it's Nick Allen. It's maybe a little bit better version of Nick Allen. It's not really one that I'm all that thrilled about. Going back to the Yankees, though, maybe you don't get Volpe, but maybe you get Jose Caballero. Career 91 WRC plus over the last 3 years with at least 1.9 FWAR. Rates as a good defender. Good speed as well, under control for a while, both he and Volpe. So again, you can go to the Yankees there, so you can get either one of those guys, and would be very good pickup for the Atlanta Braves. Nick Gonzalez, 82 and 94 WRC plus the last 2 years with 1.3 and 0.9 FWAR. Not sure he belongs at shortstop though. And then the last one here before I get into some of the prospects, Brendan Donovan, career 119 WRC plus and at least 1.5 FWAR in each of the 4 big league seasons. Not a ton of time at shortstop and probably shouldn't be there every day, but you get him for the bat and you kind of pair him with a Nick Allen or somebody else to come in defensively. You can move Brendan Donovan around. I don't hate the idea of Brendan Donovan. I don't love the idea of him being the everyday shortstop, but if you can, like I said, leave Nick Allen on the bench as a defensive replacement, kind of move Donovan around a little bit here and there, you're mainly just getting him for his bat, which is more of that contact type of bat. So those are that's a lot of options. And I get some of those might not be realistic, but CJ Abrams, Trevor Story, Corey Seager, either Volpe or Caballero, I think very legitimately could be moved this offseason. Brendan Donovan certainly could be moved. That's 5 or 6 guys right there that I think are likely to be dealt or at least talked about this offseason. And all of those would be an upgrade at shortstop. Again, the bar is not very high to clear there. I want to get into some prospects too. I have several prospects that I want to mention that I think would be available. We'll get into those here next. So prospects are a little harder to kind of gauge, obviously, what's available, but just looking around the league at some shortstops who are at the higher levels that might be blocked right now that could be available. The one name we talk about a lot is Jordan Lawlar of the Diamondbacks, 130, 126, 113 WRC plus the last 3 minor league seasons. A 2020 guy, has not been good at the big league level so far, but obviously still very young, and that's a very small sample size. Talking 42 big league games, where it is a 34 WRC plus in those 42 big league games. Don't know what the Diamondbacks are doing over there. Might trade Marte. Are they tearing things down? I don't know. But if they were willing to trade Jordan Lawlar after the breakout from Geraldo Perdomo, they could put Lawlar at third. They could put him at second if they trade Marte. So they might want to keep him. But if not, again, it's a call to at least check. Josh Kasevich of the Blue Jays, now 69, 107, 106 WRC plus the last 3 years in the minors. Finished 2025 at AAA after recovering from an injury. That's kind of why you saw the numbers down this past year. Sounds like from evaluators that you read on MLB Pipeline, has a high IQ, can stick at shortstop, high contact with little power, 11.4% walk rate, a 17.5% K rate at AAA last year, and over 29 games, but an ISO of 010. So it's an ISO of 10. That's not a lot of power, but good glove, good contact skills. And that seems to be the direction the Braves are wanting to go. I don't know if they want that little bit of power, but again, just an option. Throwing it out there. Denzer Guzman of the Angels, 119, 88, and 85 WRC plus the last 3 years in the minors. Debuted in the bigs in 2025. Just had a 50 WRC plus in 13 games. Turns 22 in February, so still very young. Defense improving with a strong arm, so could stick at shortstop and has 2020 potential. Angels, you need some pitching. Braves need a shortstop. I don't hate that idea of Guzman. If the offense is good enough with that 2020 potential, and it sounds like the defense could be there. I know he played some third base, and they have Zach Neto, obviously, at shortstop. And Guzman played third base for them when he was called up last year. William Bergolla of the White Sox, not one that I'm necessarily enthralled with, a 103, 117 WRC plus last 2 years. Played 125 games at AA last year, just a 4.7% strikeout rate. So very high contact skills there, but no home runs, but did have 40 steals. So you're talking about a high contact speed guy and has a fringe arm for shortstop, which worries me a little bit, probably more of a second baseman. This last one here, though, does intrigue me a lot. And I don't know what the Reds necessarily need and if this is a match, but Edwin Arroyo for the Reds. The Reds, on the infield, they have McLean, they have De La Cruz. 107, 109, 122 WRC plus the last 3 seasons. Now, he didn't play in 2024 because of a torn labrum. He's ready defensively, according to evaluators on MLB Pipeline. He can play defense in the big leagues today. I love to hear that. And the offense has been above average, in the minor leagues every season. Again, don't know if the Braves and Reds necessarily line up, but the Edwin Arroyo idea really intrigues me a lot. So there's even some prospects right there that, I think of this list, Lawlar, Guzman, and Arroyo are the ones that intrigue me the most. If you could make that happen, you get a young shortstop that you could have for a long time, to be the future shortstop of your team. Certainly there's question marks with all these guys, but the point that I'm trying to make here, that I'm hopefully driving home, is that the bar to clear for what the Braves have at shortstop currently and what they've had at shortstop is very, very low. And if the goal this offseason is just to upgrade shortstop and to try to do better than what you have and what you've had in the past, there are plenty of options out there. There are plenty of ways that you can do it. It doesn't just have to be Ha-Seong Kim. There are plenty trade options out there that you could go for that would upgrade the position. Yes, they come with some risk, but what else have you been doing at the position the last 3 years? So that's really the point that I'm trying to overall make here, is that if the goal this offseason is just to upgrade the shortstop position, there are plenty of ways that you can do that. I don't want to harp on this too much because I've said it already a lot this offseason, though. Unless it is Corey Seager, or in a fantasy world where Jordan Westburg is available, Jeremy Pena, somebody like that. Any of these other guys that you get, you still need to go get a bat. And I think that's what worries me about some of these comments from Alex Anthopoulos, is that it's not just upgrading shortstop and trying to get something that is base level. It's also, you need to upgrade your offense, and you still need to find a big bat. Like I said, unless you're getting Bo Bichette, unless you're getting Corey Seager, pretty much anybody else on this list, and there's still a need for another big bat in this lineup this offseason. And that kind of leads to this other quote here from Alex Anthopoulos, who said that they'll have a better idea of Sean Murphy's status in January, but they plan on him sharing at bats with Baldwin in the DH spot unless they decide to add a DH. Now, he's not sitting here saying that they're not going to add a bat, but from the comment earlier where he said they're prioritizing shortstop and starting pitching, and then this comment where they're saying they're planning on Baldwin and Murphy sharing time in the DH spot, it's got me really concerned that AA is not thinking bigger this offseason, that he's not thinking, let's go over the top and let's also be looking for that bat. Doesn't mean he won't do it, and he doesn't have to tip his hand and say that he is. And I believe he's going to look for the best possible options to upgrade this team. But again, I guess I am going to harp on it and say this on every podcast because I do feel this way. Getting a shortstop and upgrading over the bar that I said earlier, that is very low, that's the bare minimum. That's what you should be doing. There's a hole on this team. You should be filling it. Filling all the bullpen spots. That's what you should be doing. Finding more depth at starting pitching. That's what you should be doing. That is the bare minimum. And you do all those things, I'll be happy with the offseason. But you do all those things, and then you don't go over the top to get that additional bat to help this team. Whatever that bat may look, maybe it's not Cody Bellinger, maybe it's not one of the top free agents, but you don't at least go out there and get another big bat to help this team. I'm going to be a little frustrated with the offseason. So there, I said it again. Maybe I'll say it on every podcast till it happens, hopefully. Some other news, the Braves claimed pitchers Carson Ragsdale and Josh Walker off waivers from the Orioles. We'll see if they're even on the roster or on the with the team by the time we get to spring training. And then some MLB news, the Padres might be sold. Second year in a row that fan base has had to deal with some just off the field stuff that you really don't want to have to deal with in the offseason. And then Byron Buxton might waive his no trade clause if the Twins decide to sell. I know there's been a lot of talk about that amongst Braves fans as him being an Atlanta guy. The report that the Braves did at least ask on Buxton at the past trade deadline. So look, we'll see which directions the Twins go. I obviously want to go after some of their pitching, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober. I would love to go after some of that if Buxton were available. I mean, that would definitely be the big bat that I'm talking about, but we'll see what happens with that. So there's your news for the day. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on the shortstop position. Any of these guys that I brought up today, maybe you weren't thinking about before that really makes sense to you. What are your feelings on the shortstop position? Are you okay running it back with Nick Allen and just hoping that the rest of the lineup does what we believe that they can do, but haven't done the past 2 years? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you feel better about the possibilities at shortstop this offseason? I feel like I tried to keep it somewhat realistic. Of course, you never know with trades, but do you feel better about the potential options this offseason now? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for your support here on the podcast. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next.